Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Today's course is Investigational Product Accountability Best Practices. My background, just to give you a little bit of information, is that I started out as a research coordinator at a large university and had to work with an independent pharmacy and actually several different pharmacists throughout the university, depending on where studies were being hosted and what different therapeutic groups we were working with. So there were a number of challenges coordinating dispensing and assignments. So we had to make sure that when subjects were randomized, that once we had that information, we could go ahead and let the pharmacist know to go ahead and pull the correct product off the shelf, and we had to sign it out. And again, it was just very systematic, but a bit challenging because we had to work with so many different parties. And as a result, there's certainly the potential for errors, and we tried very hard to control that. But then I moved into being a CRA and learned that there was even more practices out there and more different ways of doing accountability, of different scenarios at sites and in situations with communication, different interpretations of the timing of when products should be ordered, and some pharmacies requiring that product be ordered 24 hours in advance, which isn't always possible until you know what group the patient's randomized to or until you can actually dial into the randomization system or log into it to get that next kit assignment. So certainly challenges there as well with sites then not being able to allocate product in a timely fashion. And certainly as well through monitoring, I've seen a number of challenges with temperature control and temperature management and miscommunication on logs. So I'll touch on that as well. Then after being a CRA, I moved into project management and international quality assurance. So I'll try to provide you some examples of that as well, just in terms of very practical approaches. And in the last few years, still doing quite a bit of quality assurance and a bit of instruction. Try to bring you, again, examples just from a broad spectrum of scenarios and situations. But most importantly, as we go through the course, our objectives for today are to describe investigational product accountability requirements and regulatory considerations. So one of the elements that I believe is most important when working with our sites and with working with different sponsors or CROs is to really know why it is that we ask for things. So always going back to the regulations, the intent behind the regulatory requirements. So it's not just one individual CRA going to a site and telling them to do something. It's that CRA assisting the site in meeting regulatory compliance or regulatory expectations. We'll also spend a bit of time discussing non-investigational medicinal product and rescue medication management and documentation, because it is something we're responsible for as sponsors. Once any product is assigned to a site or given to a site, we have to account for it, even if it's something that's over-the-counter, for example, Tylenol or acetaminophen, that's given up as a backup medication in an arthritis trial. We're still accountable for what we did send to the site. And there are different, certainly, methodologies or ways that can then be managed, but it's very important that we're accountable for what was shipped out and that it's only given to study patients. Then we're going to define the responsibilities of the research site in IP accountability and develop strategies for identifying and solving IP accountability errors or deficiencies. Let's start with some definitions because, again, I think one of the most important things is making sure we know where the wording comes from, where the requirements come from. So when we have sites who are inexperienced or challenging or have made mistakes, we can redirect them back to the appropriate language. In ICH-JCP, E6, that's the section on efficacy, we have the definition for investigational medicinal product. That's in section 6, 1.33. It's not 61. I apologize. There should be a space there. So it's in section 1, and again, it's just the definition of what investigational product is. And I also want to point out that there's different ways of referring to products. We have IP, investigational product, but you'll also sometimes see it listed as IMP, investigational medicinal product. For the purpose of this course and just examples, I may use those a bit interchangeably. And you will see them again used interchangeably in different protocols, depending on the country, depending on the sponsor. And you're also going to see it listed as sometimes just investigational drug or sometimes IND product, investigational new drug product. But again, the intent is that they're all investigational products, but the terms sometimes can be used interchangeably.